Hello everyone, Stormwater here. Today we'll be talking about a system that will be developing in Texas that will bring in significant impacts for parts of the central and eastern United States. It's going to bring in a lot of snow, an ice storm, flooding issues, even a little bit of severe weather as well. We'll be going into deep detail on the winter side of things and also be teaching you guys a couple things as well. Before we get started in this video, if you guys do like weather-related content, you can subscribe to my channel. We do this stuff here all the time on this channel as well. Plus, we'll be having more updates on this system as well. So definitely stay tuned for that as well. So we're getting started with the current hazards of what we got going on. And you can see here, there's a lot going on here. These pink boxes here are winter storm warnings that includes parts of Colorado, Wyoming, New Mexico, Texas, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. So that's a lot of states. A lot of states named their parts of their state are in a winter storm warning. These purple boxes here, those are winter weather advisories. And these dark blue boxes, which goes all the way up into the new parts of the New England states, those are winter storm watches as well. Don't be surprised if you get upgraded to a winter storm warning, or for some areas, an ice storm warning as well. And if you're not in any alert, if you're just to the south, you're probably going to get in a winter weather advisory. So don't be surprised by that as well. Let's go check out the models. We're going to start off with the Canadian model. So right now, we got our second piece of energy that is currently in California. That's going to bring the moisture. And you got the Arctic front just to the north. That's going to bring it in the colder air as well. There's not been much in the way of big changes since yesterday, other than some of the models have been continuing to trend a little bit to the southeast. It's not a major shift, but models have been trending towards the Canadian model solution. Even a couple models are actually a little bit further southeast than the Canadian model solution, and some of the models are actually locked in with that as well. So we are now getting into a better agreement with this setup. So this is the Canadian model. We got a lot of wintry precipitation going on in the Sever Plains. We'll be going a little bit more detail about region by region in a little bit. But just to kind of give you an overview of what the system could be looking like, you can see there a lot of icing issues from central Texas up into parts of the Ohio Valley. Some places could be experiencing an ice storm with this system as well. And then you got quite a bit of snow going on in parts of the northeast as well. The latest run in the Euro, the 18Z Euro, pretty much the same thing, just like the Canadian model as well. So we are starting into a better agreement with this as well. Now, checking out the NAM, we're actually not going to look into the 18Z run because honestly, I believe it's a flaw run. It decided to shift 15 miles northwest, which is now the furthest northwest model. It was very similar to the other models, but for some reason it traded farther off to northwest. And especially since the Harris NAM, which is its partner, it did not follow along. So given that, I think 18Z is a little bit of a fall run as well. So we're actually going to go back to 12Z on the NAM as well and just check the NAM that way. Well, we'll see if that comes true with the 0Z runs, which will be coming out in about an hour at the time of making this video. So the NAM with the 12Z is actually very similar with the other models, icing issues from central Texas all the way up into the northeast. Quite a bit of sleet out there as well. That's something to note as well, that some places going to see a lot of sleet. And just north of the sleet is going to be quite a bit of snow, especially in the parts of Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and parts of Michigan. That's where we're going to experience some of the highest snowfall totals out of this event as well. High risk Canadian, pretty much the same thing. And if I show you guys pretty much all the models, it'll pretty much have a similar scenario. Some of them maybe a little bit further northwest, some of them maybe a little bit further southeast. That's still something we need to kind of figure out as well. It may not change much with the forecast for areas a little further northwest, but it does make big changes for areas a little bit further southeast as well. So these little shifts do matter for some areas as well. Even for a 10-mile shift can change the forecast for some people as well. And that's something we're paying attention to as well. But speaking of shifts, um, some of these models do have trouble with underestimating the Arctic air. And I did that check last night. Of course, it's last night. But what I did notice that some of the models that are further southeast were actually closer to what the Arctic air actually is. But the models that are further northwest were actually underestimating the Arctic air. So that tells you something. If some of the models are underestimating the Arctic air, some of this is going to be likely to be a little bit further southeast, and it probably won't be a major shift to southeast. That's just something to note as well. If it's about the same, the track will probably be about the same as well. So that's something that should be noted as well. And that's actually going to be very important as well, which I'll show you guys some of the soundings in a moment. So that's the high-res Canadian. Here's the high-res NAM. And you do see here, it's pretty much the same thing with the other models. Icing issues in the parts of central Texas, and that goes all the way up to the northeast as well. And you do have that mix of some sleet as well. Now let's learn a little bit something today. So if you remember yesterday on the severe weather side of things, which speaking of severe weather, by the way, the severe weather risk is still in southeastern Louisiana and southern Mississippi. If you do live in those areas, probably stay weather aware on Thursday. The SPC does have a marginal risk for some of those areas, which does include parts of southwestern Alabama and parts of far western panhandle of Florida. If you're in those areas, stay weather aware. The main threats will be damage to winds, and there could be some isolated tornadoes down there as well. So then again, stay weather aware down there. And if you watched that video yesterday and got to that point, you noticed that there was called as forecast soundings. Well, we're going to be checking those out again, but on the wintry side. So we're going to learn a little bit about something for some of you folks out there that are probably interested. So we're going to start in Danville, Kentucky. And we'll also check out the European model with this one. So what you need to pay attention to is what's going on right here in this white box that I've just put out there. And pay attention to this blue line, which I'll highlight it in white. That is your freezing line. And wherever and this is your temperature and dew point line, wherever it goes on the right side of the line, that's above freezing temperature. So the right side of the line is above 32, and the left side of it is below 32. Let me actually put that as an arrow instead. So above 32 and then below 32. So the left side of this blue line, that's below 32 degrees. And on the right side of the line, that's above 32 degrees. In other words, it's above freezing. So what's happening here is that it begins as snowflakes, right? As it goes further south with time, it hits this warm layer in the mid-levels. So then it changes over to rain. Now, unfortunately, at the surface, the temperatures are a little bit above freezing, so it's just going to fall as rain. But look what happens when you get into freezing rain. So let's go up to Shelbyville, Kentucky. All right, there's a difference here. Again, pay attention to this area right in here. I'm going to highlight the freezing line again. There is a difference here. So, at this point here, the warm air loft is not as strong. However, at the surface, temperatures are below freezing. So what's happening here is that, then again, it's falling as snow. When it hits that warm air loft, which is situated, let me actually put this in red. Warm air loft is about right in here. Your red box is your warm air loft. When it hits that warm air loft, it changes over to a liquid, so basically a rain droplet. However, down at the surface, temperatures are below freezing. So, whenever that happens, when it gets on contact, maybe a road sign, driveway, grass, trees, anything, it freezes up. So, it turns into ice. That's what's called freezing rain. And you can predict this by forecast soundings like this as well. So, that's freezing rain. we'll see what a forecasting looks like when there's sleet. So we're going into southeastern Indiana. So then again, same thing. Pay attention to the same area. So your blue line, which will highlight in white, that is your freezing line. And you do notice here that it doesn't necessarily go past zero, but it's at freezing. So what's happening here is that it's falling as snow. It does melt a little bit. It does melt a little bit. However, at the surface here, you do have a pretty decent cold air towards the surface here. It's actually a little bit wider there towards the surface. Between 850 millibars to 1,000 millibars, it's actually below freezing. So at that point, it's falling to water droplet, then it freezes to an ice pellet. But it does not have enough time to freeze up into a snowflake. So it falls as ice pellets, which is known as sleet. And then this is what a Saturday looks like for snow. So we're going to south central Indiana. Your freezing line is here. You notice here your entire air column. For the upper parts of the atmosphere to the surface, it's all below freezing. So that means everything is falling as snow. I understand this is saying sleet and snow, but in this scenario, it's all snow, pretty much. So some of you guys probably learned something new today. And that's how you can read different precipitation types using a forecast sounding as well. So they are very important. So it really depends on how strong the warm air aloft is going to be and how cold the air at the surface is going to be. It really depends. That's how it determines your precipitation type. Temperatures at the surface may be below freezing, but above your heads, there's a warm air aloft. There's an area of milder air. So, and then again, that milder air above your head determines your precipitation type. So that's one of the key things. And this may sound crazy for some people, but in reality, this is actually tougher to forecast than severe weather. Severe weather does have many components. It's hard to forecast for severe weather as well. But even this here, it's much tougher as well. Because 1 degree can make a big change in temperatures. It doesn't take much of a temperature change to make a big difference with precipitation type. So it'd be pretty difficult to forecast on this type of stuff. Okay, we're actually going to check out GFS ball, but this time we're going to go region by region. And honestly, I think the most accurate model for this will probably be the GFS. It's a little bit further southeast than some of the other models, but honestly, I do believe some of those other models may be a little bit underdone with the Arctic air. I'll probably have to double check that though later tonight, and I'll probably post that on Twitter. Which, if you guys do want to follow me on Twitter, it's in the link description down below. Anyway, checking out the GFS model. So for most people, it's going to begin as rain. So really by Wednesday morning, you got snow breaking out in Kansas, parts of Oklahoma, the Texas Panhandle, and also for parts of Colorado and New Mexico. And you can see there out in southern Missouri, we got sleet, a little bit of freeze rain going on as well. And eventually, as we get to Wednesday afternoon, for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, it's going to start as rain, but eventually it's going to transition over to either freezing rain or sleet. That's when things do turn pretty icy with travel conditions as well. You also do notice here there's going to be quite a bit of sleet falling as well. Darker the shades of purple with heavier sleet. Now, freezing rain's a little bit of a different story. Now, if we're going to experience what's known as heavy freezing rain, now, the good news with heavy freezing rain, it doesn't accumulate as well as light freezing rain because it just does not have enough time to freeze up. It's always moving around, on a tree branch or on the ground. So it's basically going to run off. So when heavy freezing rain occurs, it's not really going to accumulate that much at all. So you may be lucky enough to get heavy freeze rain, which can knock down your ice accumulation totals. So that's something to know as well, because wherever I show you guys the ice accumulation maps, they're going to be overdone, at least in the highest amount areas. Anyway, kind of going back here, you do see here some places will be getting multiple rounds of sleet and freeze rain. And beyond just on the back side of this, there's going to be some rounds of moderate. Some places could be at times heavy snow as well. Now, depending on the snowfall rates as well, some of them may not accumulate because, if I'm correct, earlier today, temperatures in Texas were in the 60s and 70s. And really by the next day, which would be tomorrow, things are going to be much colder in some places as well. So depending on the snowfall rates, the ground temperatures are going to be above freezing, I do believe, either way. However, the snowfall rates determine if it can accumulate. If you get heavy snow, it can accumulate. If it's going to be on the light side, not so much. So that's also going to be the uncertainty as well. If you get lighter snow, maybe not expect much in the way of accumulations. It'll probably on the lighter side. If you do get moderate heavy snow, you will get some decent accumulations as well. So that's something to note with that as well. Eventually, a lot of that precipitation gets out of here by Thursday night. All right, so let's check out. Let's talk about the snowfall first. And this is the catch area ratio, and some of these amounts are going to be overdone as well. It does have some impressive amounts out there, but probably have to take it off by an inch or two, and that's probably a more accurate way to kind of look at it. But either way, there's still going to be some decent snowfall totals out there as well. It even includes for parts of Oklahoma. It's got a widespread swath of anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of snow with isolated higher totals out there as well. But your highest amounts are probably going to be more focused in parts of Kansas and Missouri as well. All right, let's get to the worst part, and that's the ice accumulation. And like I said earlier in the video, in the heaviest amounts, just only in the heaviest amounts, the ice accumulations are going to be overdone because it's calculating that heavy freeze rain. And like I said earlier, heavy freeze rain doesn't accumulate as well. So it's going to show some pretty high ice accumulation amounts. So for some of the highest amounts, probably take it off maybe by 2/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch of ice, and that's probably the more accurate way to look at it. And that's mainly in the heaviest areas. So for example, there in parts of northeastern Texas, it's got a little over 6/10 of an inch. You probably have to take that off maybe about 2/10 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch of ice. In reality, it maybe just be 3/10 of an inch to maybe some places getting 4/10 of an inch of ice. And then again, it's going to be overdone. However, in the lighter areas, it's actually going to be more accurate because that's just going to be lighter freeze rain, which will be able to accumulate much easier than heavier freeze rain. It's going to be the same situation going forward as well. Which you can see here, some of the highest amounts, at least in Texas-wise, it goes from central Texas into northeastern Texas, going into southeast Oklahoma, eventually getting to parts of southern Arkansas, even going up into parts of eastern Arkansas as well, eventually getting up to parts of northwestern Mississippi and western Tennessee as well. And then again, for the heaviest amounts, take it off maybe about 2/10 of an inch to maybe 1/4 an inch or 3/10 of an inch of ice. So that's the severed plains. Let's move to the Ohio Valley. Next area to watch for as well. And we'll go to precipitation type. And let's check this out here with the GFS model. And again, this is going to be the same situation going forward here, freeze or rain wise. Which you can see here in the parts of Kentucky, that's actually heavy freeze rain. If you do experience heavy freeze rain, you actually probably be pretty lucky. You probably won't see as your ice accumulation potential may not be as high as what could be forecasted if you experience heavy freeze rain for a longer period of time. Meanwhile, just to the north, there's going to be a lot of sleet going on. Some places may be able to experience 1 to 3 inches of sleet, and that's a lot of sleet. Sleet is small ice pellets. And last year, I've experienced 2 to 4 inches of sleet one time, and it's the most sleet I ever seen. It's crazy how much sleet falling. Maybe not that much, but maybe a little lower than that I experienced last year. But either way, there's going to be a lot of sleet out there as well. It may be a pain in the butt to shovel away, but it's better than freezing rain. It is certainly better than freezing rain. But anyway, here, either way, it's going to be significant either way. And you can definitely see there, you got that pretty good swath of some freezing rain going through over some of those same areas for a long period of time as well. Some areas could experience freezing rain for many hours, and that's It's where some of those areas could experience some of the most ice accumulations as well. It's how long the freezing rain does last. So let's check out the ice accumulations. And then again, in the highest amounts, it's going to be overdone. Take it off maybe about 2/10 of an inch to 3/10 of an inch of ice. So like for example here, Lexington, Kentucky, it's got 9/10 of an inch of ice. When you take it off maybe about 2/10 of an inch to 3/10 of an inch, in reality, it might just be anywhere from half an inch to 3/4 of an inch of ice. And I could see some areas trying to get close to 3/4 of an inch. That's the max. I don't think we're going to see any areas getting an inch of ice. It seems unlikely for this event, but either way, it's going to cause significant impacts. With a half an inch of ice to a 3/4 of an inch of ice, you get tree damage, power outages as well. So definitely have to be prepared. If you're going to be in the heaviest amounts of ice, just be prepared for a potential power outage. The chances for a power outage from the storm here for areas that's going to experience some of the highest amounts is going to be pretty darn high. And let me tell you guys something real quick. When you use a generator, do not put them in your houses. Most fatalities when it comes to ice storms have been generator related. People put in generators in their house and they run it, and your generator is like a car engine, almost, pretty much. And it produces carbon dioxide. And when you breathe in it so much, it makes you pass out. But eventually, over time, if you breathe in a little bit more, unfortunately, you get a fatality. So don't put them in your houses. Most fatalities in ice storms have come from generators, the misuse of it. So put them outside. Don't put them in your garage or anything like that. So just got that out of the way. And then again, some pretty impressive totals out there for the GFS, but in reality, it's going to be lower than what it's showing as well, which you probably heard that multiple times before. So I'll go about snowfall accumulations. Oh yeah, by the way, if you're going to be, then again, some of the highest totals for ice accumulations, get plenty of food and water of what you need as well. Be ready for that, just to be prepared for a potential power outage there then again as well. So then again, for snowfall amounts, it's going to be a little bit overdone, but I could certainly see a widespread swath of 12 to 18 inches of snow. There may be some areas getting over 18 inches of snow, but that's going to be isolated. Some of the highest totals will likely be from central Missouri through central Illinois, the northern half of Indiana, northern Ohio, southern Michigan, and eventually getting up into parts of northwestern Pennsylvania as well. You do notice on the northern end, it's going to be a sharp cutoff. Like for Chicago, for example, if the conditions are right, the southern half of the city, hey, you may get several inches of snow. The northern side of the city, it might just be a couple inches. Or in other words, it may be 2 inches in the north side of the city, or it may be 6 to 7 inches of snow in the southern side of the city. So it's going to be a pretty sharp cutoff. Let me tell you guys, even on the southern end as well, it could be a sharp cutoff as well. The model is trying to show 10 inches of snow for Cincinnati, but I think that's going to be overdone. I think I could still see Cincinnati getting several inches of snow, well, at least a couple inches of snow out of this event as well. If it does continue to trend further south, yeah, some of the snowfall totals will probably increase as well. All right, finally, let's get to the northeast. And let's go to precipitation type and rate. Let's try to get this done a little bit quicker so the video won't be too long. So then again, precipitation arrives in the northeast really by Wednesday night. For some areas, it's going to start as rain, but eventually for some other areas, it's going to transition over to either snow or a wintry mix as well. Now, the icy situation when you get to the northeast is not going to be as bad as the Ohio Valley. You also do notice here for the GFS, there's going to be a lot of snow out there, especially across parts of New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and the southern part of Maine. There's going to be quite a bit of snow out there. I could certainly see a widespread swath of anywhere from 8 to 14 inches of snow out there, certainly. And you can see there with the icing issues, comes from parts of West Virginia, southern Ohio, through central Pennsylvania, southern New York, into parts of Massachusetts and Connecticut, as well. New York City, you guys might just miss At least some of the heaviest totals may miss you to the north. But even you folks can sort of see some icing out of the setup as well. And that can end as a little bit of snow as well. Then again, some of the highest amounts this is spinning out, it's going to be a little bit overdone because where we looked at the precipitation type and rate, there is some heavy freeze rain being mixed in there as well. So then again, maybe take it off maybe about, probably this time, I'll say maybe about 1/1500 of an inch. Well, 0.15 to 2/10 of an inch of ice, maybe a quarter of an inch. That's probably the more accurate way to look at it. And you can see here, in reality, maybe northern New Jersey, it could be up to a quarter of an inch, which, by the way, ice storm criteria is a quarter of an inch of ice. So some of these areas will probably get into ice storm criteria, but I think it's going to be a widespread swath of a 1/10 of an inch to 2/10 of an inch. And some areas might be able to manage to get well over a quarter of an inch of ice as well. And then the last thing for the GFS we're going to look at is the snowfall. You can see here there's a lot of snow on this map, and then again, it's going to be a little bit overdone with the snowfall amounts. You can see here, like I said earlier, I think it's going to be a widespread swath of 8 to 14 inches, and there's going to be some areas that could get maybe closer to 18 inches in some places as well. Either way, there's going to be a lot of snow. Hey, for some areas, it's going to make it up for some areas that missed out on the nor'easter on the last event, which would probably be fun. Alright, so the last thing we're going to check out is some of the National Service forecast. Unfortunately, I cannot find it for the central U.S., so we're just going to look at the eastern U.S. Here's your snowfall accumulation forecast. The highest totals are going to be the areas in the orange. That's anywhere from a foot of snow to 18 inches of snow. In lighter amounts is when you get to the yellow colors. That's anywhere from 6 to 12 inches of snow in the yellow colors. And in the blue colors, that's anywhere it could be as low as an inch to as high as 4-6 inches of snow in some places. As well, the legend is going to be on the left side as well. Either way, there's going to be a lot of snow out there as well. Here's the ice accumulation forecast. Honestly, I do expect this to kind of shift or expand a little bit further southeast to include most of southern Ohio and probably a larger area of Kentucky as well, given by some of the latest trends from the model guidance. Has been trending a little bit southeast, but either way, they're saying some of the greatest risk for an ice storm looks to be the areas in the red, which could be anywhere from a quarter of an inch to a half an inch of ice, which could get pretty close to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as well. Could be involved, and it also includes Cincinnati, Louisville, and even Paducah, Kentucky as well. That kind of goes back down to, I believe, in the parts of Little Rock as well. Lighter amounts is in the yellow color, yellow shades as well. And you can see in the northeast, they're not expecting much in the way of accumulations, but there is a possibility some areas could get close to a quarter of an inch of ice as well, which is a possibility as well. Cannot sleep on the flash flood risk, and I do believe the greatest risk for flooding problems will be across northeastern Mississippi, northern Alabama, through central Tennessee, into parts of central and southern Kentucky. That's where we expected to see possibility for 3 to 4 inches of rain as well. And that could lead to some isolated flooding issues as well. But anyways, guys, that's all we got today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Guys, like this video, hit that like button if you do like my channel. Hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you never miss an upload. If you guys have questions about this, put the comment section down below. I'll answer you guys questions. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye and have a good day.